Okay, so I am going to talk about when I was illegally evicted in 2014. I lived at home in Stockwell with my son, and I had some other things going on as well during the time, so I wasn't really able to focus on dealing with it, and I was illegally evicted. Whereas if I had been all together with it, I would have been able to focus on it and fight the eviction. Okay, so basically, throughout most of the time that I lived in Stockwell, I was constantly sent eviction letters, warnings for eviction and stuff like that. You never feel secure if you're getting that happening to you all of the time. You don't feel secure at all where you live. And I had made a wrong choice in people to hang around with. Unfortunately, that's my fault. And some of those people were messing with my head. So that was affecting the way I was. So I'm going to go back to months before the illegal eviction, where I actually got a solicitor and got a stay of eviction and was up at Lambeth County Court. And the judge, I also have letters from the solicitor's firm that was representing me. So they also sent me the paperwork. Okay, so the judge at Lambeth County Court in January of 2014 basically told Hyde Housing that they're overcharging me, and that the amount needs to be lowered. Forgive me if I'm stumbling a bit. And the court wrote a court order in my favour. So basically, for January of 2014, this is what the court order says. It is ordered that the warrant be suspended upon defendant paying current rent plus £3.60 per week towards the arrears. So I'll repeat that. The warrant be suspended upon defendant paying current rent plus £3.60 per week towards the arrears. I was evicted in, I think, June or July or something like that. Or I can't remember the exact date. September. But I had been paying, and you can see it here, $43.72 a fortnight. And they evicted me because they wanted me to pay more money. They wanted me to pay something like £55 something per week. I do have a lot more paperwork than this. Now, I had a bit of a meltdown. I had to go and send my son to live with his dad because I was having a meltdown. I didn't want him to experience that. And I didn't want him to experience anything like homelessness. Do you know what I mean? I didn't want him to go through that trauma. So I managed to stop one eviction date because I found out that the eviction warrant was only for an hour, so I was able to stop that from happening. But they brought in another one, and what happened was I stupidly opened a door because the income officer called the Brixton Police Force. I told them through the door it was an illegal eviction and that I could prove it. Well, they managed to get me to open the door. Once the door was opened, that was it. I was pulled out and the locksmith brought in. And I'm showing the police force it's an illegal eviction. I'm showing them the court order. I'm showing them what the court order said that I should be paying. I showed him that I had been paying a lot more than that. And even though I hadn't paid for a little while, the amount that I'd been paying would still be covering what this court order says. You know, if you break it down. And basically, when I was telling the police force, because I think there was a few members of the Brixton police force were brought to the flat called by the income officer, because I wasn't opening the door. That's basically what it was. I wasn't opening the door. I was trying to fight to keep the flat that I had just started decorating, that I, lived with my son. I had some crappy people around me as well, which wasn't beneficial for me trying to deal with this, or in general. Basically, on the eviction day, once the police got me out, and I was telling them, I had a folder with all the paperwork in it, and I pulled it out and I was showing the police officer, you just helped someone be illegally evicted. You just helped them illegally evict me. The income officer, that was the same income officer that actually attended the hearing in January, started jumping up and down and being quite aggressive in his demeanour. Do you know that the police force, Brixton Police Force, actually removed him from the building and away from the road to ensure a peaceful eviction? He had a colleague with him who was a new member of staff. I remember his name. And his colleague was rather embarrassed, actually. He's like, I can't believe he just did that. When I was evicted, I was given 2 days to move my things. I had no money whatsoever. Not a penny. I couldn't really borrow from anywhere apart from my mum, and she only had £60. So I could only get a small van and only get a few of my things. And a few of my son's things. And I had to leave everything else behind. Furniture, lots of different things I had to leave behind. I lost a lot of things. And even if I did have a van to get them, I had absolutely nowhere to store them and no money to put them in a storage unit. It was an illegal eviction. £3.60 per week is £7.20 a fortnight. Paying over £40 a fortnight and then being evicted because they wanted me to pay over £50, even though the court order clearly states, and that's in 2014, so the same year of the eviction. I wanted to be a bit more succinct when I was talking about this, but it's quite emotional because I was studying, I was doing my voluntary work, but most importantly, I had my son with me, and when I got these eviction letters kept coming, and it's quite unbelievable. I've got several letters where it's just final warning. Now, legally, you only get one final warning. You don't send lots. That you could consider it harassment. So that, was causing me a lot of angst and worry and anxiety and panic as it was, and I just really kind of kept worrying about that. I ended up having my stuff packed for such a long time because I'm going to end up losing the place. And all the time, Hyde Housing had broken the court order. I did approach a solicitor's firm after I was evicted with the paperwork. However, they stated that legal aid could not cover the case. No one actually really gave time to look through the paperwork, because if I had thought about it at the time myself, the court order is a big point here. Because Hyde broke the court order. Break a court order, you're in contempt of court. So anyway, I lost my place and lost a lot of my belongings. But that was the last time I kind of had, that was where my son was at home with me, doing baking with him. I'd always be doing these inventive recipes for him, and then kind of when I was cooking them, I'd do it like it was a television show, hand him over like raw bits of vegetables and things like that. Making sweets for him. I learned how to make hard-boiled sweets. My gosh, that's difficult. you know, and I was decorating it up, and I liked the place because I felt it was safe with the security, the concierge. It also meant, you know, if I wanted to do shopping and leave it downstairs because I wanted to go back out and something, I could leave it with the concierge. It was always kind of nice. You knew that you were going to get your deliveries. You knew that you were going to be safe. If any problems happened, they were there. Yeah. It's a shame because if I had the correct people around me at the time, I think perhaps I would have been able to fight it. But nonetheless, it happened. And I suffered greatly for it. You know, and yeah. So that's it. Illegal eviction in 2014 from Hyde housing from my former flat at Beckett House in Stockwell.